There we go. We're recording. Oh, so how did the week go?
Okay. Sorry.
It's all right.
I breathed in some hay today and I've been coughing ever since.
Oh
no. The collar grab is I think I just need to put a lot more effort into it because she's quite a nervy dog. She's always right from when she first came. She never liked us leaning over her. She never likes us putting our hands out to her in any direction at all. So it's taken her a long time to get to where she is now. So I think probably you're going to say I just need to put a lot more time into doing it to condition the collar grab. But it is a difficult one. I lost her and Archie up in Heath End Woods yesterday. I got a bit brave and they went off after a squirrel. She did come back, but then she doesn't want me to grab her. And she sort of knows I've made a massive effort since I've had her, whenever she's come back to me, not to grab her.
Yeah.
And to always like feed her treats. And she usually just sits in front of me and I feed her treats before I put my hand on the collar. So it's a sort of a new thing for her, me grabbing her, because she's always been so, oh, you're not grabbing me.
Yeah. So when you walk her, do you walk her just on the collar or is she wearing a harness?
I have a harness on her. Okay. And I walk her on the harness, but she does lead really well on the collar, but I have a collar on as well.
Okay,
so I've got anything attached to
it. It might be that she'll find it easier if we start with a harness grab.
Okay. Yeah, she might.
Rather than her collar. I mean, I'd still work the collar. And the video that you sent in.
Yeah, she was quite good then, wasn't she? But that's not always the way.
That's not always the way. Okay.
No. And I can tell she is nervous about my hand when it's coming to her. And I don't think she thinks it's got treats in it. I think she actually is still a little bit
looking at it. Yeah. I mean, I don't worry too much if they're looking. I think that's kind of normal. Something's coming towards you, you're going to watch it.
Yeah.
In the video you sent in, I didn't really notice her moving away.
No. Maybe I should have sent in a video of her. It's just when Daisy, I finally got someone to actually video me. When Daisy videoed me, it all went quite well.
No, that's fine. If that's not normal, if that was a good day, then I would stay at that level that you were doing. I know I said to you to push it on, but if that's not your normal,
no, I'm a bit worried about doing that.
Then don't push it on.
Okay.
You're right to stay at the level you're at. And I'd even go as far to say, if it's a real problem, go back a step. So just reach your hand out and feed. To make it really clear to her, to concentrate on separating those two actions.
Yeah.
So the first hand comes out, then the second hand. And you should see things move on more quickly if you make sure that those two things are separate.
Okay, yeah, I got that from your feedback.
Yeah,
I started doing it after a bit, but because I haven't done enough of it, I suppose I'm not that good at coordinating what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be doing that, and then I think, oh no, I'm supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, it's just practice.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, it is just practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so separating them, I think, is going to be a winner. And I would pare it back. So if you're worried about it and it's maybe not progressing as you would like, I would go back a step and just reach forward your hand and then just fingertips on the collar, so you're not really you're touching it, not holding it.
Okay, that's good.
And then hopefully you'll see her progress a bit quicker. But I would also then maybe include a session or two and see whether grabbing the harness is going to be easier for her.
Okay.
To do that, I would go in at the shoulder. I don't know what kind of harness she wears, but normally they come around.
What's it called? Something Love.
Okay, so does she have a circle that comes around the front of her shoulders?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd probably
you clip it on either side.
Yeah.
And it's got two rings on it, I think.
Okay, so I'd probably go to touch her shoulder. So go in at shoulder level and grab that bigger loop that's around there. because that won't be quite so near her head. Most dogs are most comfortable about being touched on their shoulder rather than any other body part. So I'd go in there and see whether that, because at least then you know if she's always going to wear a harness when you're out walking, you've got something that you can hold then.
Yeah.
And that will do. But you're right. So if she's shying away from stuff right now or keeping a distance, just feeding her when she's in front of you. And I would, if you want to hold her, like get hold of her, it's just about feed being in front of you. I would chuck a handful of treats down on the floor and then I just clip the lead on.
Yeah, precisely. And that is what I generally do.
Cool.
Unless I see the runner too late and I've missed my chance. But when I took her up to Heath End, actually, because it's somewhere I've only been once with them before, and only went up there because my daughter went for an osteopath appointment in that place where they have all the animals.
Oh, yeah.
And there must be a whole load of different dogs and things that walk out there, because both my dogs were really, oh my God, this is amazing. And when I tried to get her attention with treats, she wouldn't eat the treats at all.
Okay.
And even thought, oh my God, this isn't going to work. She's not even interested in a treat. I even tried shoving it under her mouth so she'd start thinking about it. I tried throwing them on the floor in front of her, and no, she was not in. She was on the lead at that time. I just wanted to sort of get her thinking of me and checking in with me. She wasn't, treats were very low priority. She wouldn't eat one.
Okay. So
they weren't very good treats, to be fair.
Okay.
I should have rethought it and taken some bacon.
Yeah. So my trick. So my middle spaniel, I had to teach her to eat when she was out. It wasn't a behavior that she came with, because being outside was really exciting. So she came obsessed with tennis balls. So I would throw the tennis ball contingent on her taking and swallowing a treat. So I had to teach her to take food when we were out. I don't think Heidi's probably going to be quite as bad as that from what you've described before.
You know, she does normally take treats out on our normal walks, and she's very interested in them. But at that point, she had such heightened interest in all the new smells. She no way was she going to eat a treat.
So it's just like us. If your adrenaline is really high and you're like super aroused for whatever reason, whether you're really scared or really excited, eating is the last thing on your mind.
For me. But yeah, okay, I'll take your word for it.
I was going to say me either, but now that I've developed IBS, it is for me. But it didn't used to be for me either. So I would say what I tend to do is have like a trial mix of food on me when I take them out. So I have a mixture of their normal kibble stuff, different kinds of high value food. So I don't just take one thing out with me. Part of that is so that they never really know what they're going to get.
Yeah.
And this time it could be the really good stuff.
Yeah.
But also because I've had dogs that, depending on what's been out before us, and if we're going right at the crack of dawn or towards dusk when all of the little critters are out a bit more, sometimes I need to have some options with us. So I do tend to take a variety of different stuff out with me. I normally have at least one cheese variety and one meat variety, and then anything in between, including dry and wet stuff. So yeah, it might have just been that combination of, oh, this is really exciting and the treats aren't quite cutting it. If I had a dog that wasn't taking food at that point, I wouldn't let them off lead.
No. I wish I hadn't.
It's easy to say in hindsight, I know.
The thing is, my Jack Russell, I mean, I realise now in hindsight, I could have done things very differently. I didn't know they were going to be that excited with being up there. My Jack Russell spent the whole time running away, coming back, running away, coming back, running away, coming back, and just checks in constantly, almost to the point of annoyance.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's trying to bring Heidi back with him, and everything was going well, and she was coming back, but not close enough to want a treat.
Yeah.
But then he decided, actually, no, there's a creature there I can run after and kill. So off he went, and then of course she went with them.
Yeah. So if I don't think I've got a reinforcer, and it doesn't have to be food. So for instance, with that spaniel, I would take tennis balls out with me.
Yeah.
But if I would test them, my reinforcers that I've got with me when we go out on a walk, and if they're not going to take it, if my strategy is not going to work, they don't get to come off lead.
No.
And actually that walk becomes less of a walk and more of a training session at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I have actually done that this last couple of weeks, because I've had to walk them at 6 in the morning because I've got this really busy thing going on for 12 days. And it's very noticeable that there's a lot more creatures out there for them to go after. And I have actually not let her off the lead quite so much, and done a bit more training with her, because I know that if she goes, then it'll take me a long time before I can get her back, and then I'll be late.
Yeah, and that's the thing, when you're restricted with the time, you know that's going to be the point that they're going to bugger off.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be annoyed, and then you can't fake it.
No.
And then it all goes wrong.
Yeah.
So always they only head off when you're under a time restriction, and you were like, right, we're just going to go for a quick 20 minutes. And it turns into an hour. Yeah, been there.
It's so frustrating, and you try not really to be anxious and frustrated by it, because you know that's coming out.
Yes. Yeah, but I think generally you were doing the right things there. I think maybe you just trusted her a little more.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. That's all right. We've all been there. We've all done it. The important thing is she came back.
Oh yeah, actually she came back without Archie. Archie's still out there doing his thing, and she came back without him, and met another dog, and then came away from that dog in the distance, and came to me in the undergrowth and wanted to be with me, but just wouldn't let me take her.
Yeah, that's something
I did at the end.
Yeah, and sometimes with my Cocker Spaniel, who certainly doesn't have a problem with being handled particularly, but when he is busy doing, he doesn't like being fiddled with. And at those points, if I think he's being a bit, it's not so much that he doesn't want to be touched, he knows what the lead being out means, right? And he's busy spanieling. I tend to just throw food on the floor wherever he's snuffling, throw food on the floor, and while his head is down, I just clip the lead on. And I don't expect any behavior from him. I don't expect him to offer, because normally I like them to stand in front of me and kind of offer their harness almost to me to say, yeah, do it. But when he's in that kind of mood, I'm just like, okay, you're standing still long enough for me to clip it on, and that's all that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just there's no point. I don't like crossing fingers or holding my breath to see whether I'm going to get the behavior that I want. I'm just going to assume that I'm not going to, so this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because if I wait and hope to get a behavior that I can then reinforce, I might be waiting a long time, and then a whole slew of things that I didn't want to happen will happen first. So I just kind of assume it's going to go wrong, and just get on with my day. But yeah, so I think my one tip would be, when you're out and about with her, always make sure that you've got some really good stuff with you. Mixed in with the not so great stuff is fine. And test it first. So if she's not going to take food, and that's your staple reinforcement, we are going to talk about playing and stuff today. And that's not going to work for you. Like, she can't take it. She stays on lead until she can. Because you might find 10 minutes later she's calmed down a little bit when she's had a bit of a sniff and whatever. Now, oh, awesome, now you can come off. Or I just give you a bit of a longer line because I'm just going to test it out a little bit. That would be how I would play it for now.
Okay,
cool. So to that end, I'm going to skip. So we are going to talk about play. I was going to make you guys play, and then I thought that's really mean, because it's kind of putting everybody on the spot a little bit. And I don't know about you, but I get self-conscious when I know that people are watching me playing with my dog.
And it is a sort of a personal thing you do with your dog, isn't it? It's a bit embarrassing to do it.
So I decided I wasn't going to make people do it on camera, but I did want to talk about it.
Okay.
So the reason that I like having play, even if you can't use it for reinforcement, and I'll talk about that in a minute, is because we need a way to get their arousal level up, because as you know, recall is fine right up until they get too excited about something, and then they're off. So we need some way of recreating that in a way that we can kind of control. And play normally does that for us. I mean, I also like it because it gives us lots of different alternative reinforcement strategies, and we're not just relying on them taking food. Not just because they might not want to take food, but also because it's, you know, variety is good. And there are different times when I might want to reinforce in a different way. So having them with the recall, there's a lot of chasey type games because I want to encourage that speediness back to you. When you reinforce that with just a bit of food, it doesn't quite match the behavior in energy level. So if we can reinforce with something that's just as high energy, that often works in our favor. And play generally, even if we're not using it for reinforcement, builds a relationship and understanding, because you get to understand what kind of games your dog likes to play. And different dogs like very different games. I like teaching my dogs to tug in particular because it's really handy. It's something that you do together. They can't tug on their own. They actually require you to be part of it. And so that's why I find it so powerful for playing. But you don't have to do tug games. So my Cocker Spaniel is now 5, and only for the last year have I really been able to use tug as a reinforcer. It took me a good 4 years to build that tugging play behavior strong enough, and even now it's not as strong as my other 2 dogs, for me to be confident that he will take the toy when it's offered, he'll play in the way that I want him to play, and that he will enjoy it, you know, enjoy it enough that I can use it as a reinforcer. I know a lot of people, especially in the gun dog world, are a bit worried about playing tug games with their dogs. Lots of people are worried about playing tug games for the dogs. I haven't found that it leads to a hard mouth for those who are doing retrieving amongst us, especially not if you keep the boundaries clear. So I use particular toys to play tug with. My dogs can still retrieve a raw egg to my hand without crushing it. So I'm not worried about it producing a hard mouth. And it certainly doesn't lead into any worries about dominance. It's a cooperative game. They can't play it with you without there being cooperation. So it's not about being bigger and stronger and better or anything. And if you watch 2 dogs play tug together, they will self-handicap. So the bigger, stronger dog will often self-handicap themselves. That was an awful sentence. By like laying down or something, not tugging as hard. And if you, so my 2 younger spaniels, when they both get hold of a toy and they're tugging together, really, they end up running around with it together mainly. And then trying to do a little bit of tussling, and then they'll run around with it again together. So it's very much a cooperative game. Having said all of that, and the fact that you can play like retrieve games, so throwing a ball and then bringing it back, and I do swaps. So I normally have 2 toys that are the same. so that they're not worried about having to give up a toy. All they have to do is drop it, and then I'll throw the second one for them. You can play all of those same kind of games with food. So I will put some videos up on the online thing of the different ways that I play with my dogs, and the silly things we do, and also the silly games that they have come up with. So of my two youngest spaniels, which is the ones that you normally see videos of now, the Cocker Spaniel is the one that doesn't play tug that hard. He doesn't enjoy it being really rough, and yet he's the one that is all over people and likes cuddling and all of that stuff. My Springer Spaniel, the Diddy Springer Spaniel female, is the one who's far more sensitive as far as people's proximity and being worried about people. She plays tug like a German Shepherd Malinois velociraptor. Like, she's a demon. And she enjoys being shoved and slapped around when we play. Like, she plays really rough. But if you knew them aside from tugging games, you wouldn't have paired them that way. So it really is an individual thing, and you just kind of, you have to play with it. You have to try some things out. The tips I would have for tug, because I do love teaching the dog to tug, is our traditional way of playing tug where you stand opposite facing them is never going to work for a dog that's worried about playing tug or isn't too sure, because that's quite a competitive kind of scenario. So instead, always try facing away from your dog. And so I tend to tug a lot with Flint by my side, and I walk around with it. The other thing is to try and keep tension on the toy. So when the toy goes slack and you kind of accidentally push it towards them, that will put them off, and they'll let go often. Because bunny rabbits always run away. Unless the bunny rabbit has a severe mental illness disorder, they don't bounce into their mouths.
Or myxomatosis, maybe.
Yeah, but they generally don't go hi. They tend to run away. So often what happens when we're trying to get a dog to play, we kind of shove the toy in their face, and they're like, oh, get it away, because no rabbit in its right mind does that. Instead, they're running away. So to entice dogs to play, it's often about the toy moving away from them. I squiggle it across the floor and things like that to try and get them interested in it. And I keep the play sessions for a dog that I'm trying to teach to play, or even when I'm using it, you know, even with Fraggle, who is a tug demon, we keep it short. So it's high energy. We are both just as invested. I'm not half-hearted about it. Like, I'm playing just as hard as they are. Because they know when you're not really invested and you're not interested, really, or you're knackered. Because if you're playing just as hard as your dog, you should be out of breath within a minute or two. I certainly am. So that's all I want to say about play and tug in particular. I'll put some videos up of our silly games. I've got a video somewhere of a game that my German Shepherd made up, or my husband and my German Shepherd made up. My husband likes blankets over him when he's lying on the sofa, and he used to pretend like there was something moving underneath the blanket with his hand, and my German Shepherd would try and grab it. But never really hard, like he never got hurt. My husband never got hurt. I've got a video of that somewhere. It's really quite funny. But it's those silly games that can really build relationship with your dog, because they're special. That's not a game that any of our other dogs have ever played with either of us. They don't get it. That was their special game that they came up with together. Okay, enough. Let's get on to the exercises. So you've already done this one in Behave. So that hand touch.
Yeah.
This is a sneaky one, though, to try and get hold of your dog, right, which we didn't really talk about in Behave.
Okay, yeah.
But is why I include it in Come Back. Because if you can magnetize their nose to your hand, you get a default recall because they just can't help themselves. If they're touching your hand, then she's close enough that you can put your other hand down to hold her harness. You know, because I don't see how else that would work. So I quite like it for those times when I'm not sure whether a recall cue is going to work or not, but I've called their name and they've turned to look at me, and I've got that split second to decide, am I going to put my recall cue in and I'm willing to bet 50 quid, or do I try my hand touch? And if I'm not sure, I'll try my hand touch.
Right.
And then if they start coming towards me, then I can cheerlead them in, get the food out, do the whole treat party thing. And then when they're close enough to touch my hand, well, they're close enough for me to grab. And when I say grab, it's not like I'm really grabbing.
Yeah.
Reaching gently. So we're going to do this the same way as we did in the other class. Clicker on one hand and treats where you can get hold of them easily. Hand right in front of her nose. You're going to click for ideally the moment her nose touches your hand, which probably means that you're going to have to predict, be ahead of her a little bit, and click earlier rather than late. Always click early. So if she is still moving towards your hand, it's better to click that than her backing away from it. I want you to wait to present your hand target until she's looking at you. So she looks towards you, then the hand comes out, she touches it, click treat. And then when they're reliably touching your hand, you're going to swap hands, you're going to move your hand high, low, slightly behind you, slightly in front of you. All the time, what I'm looking for is a really enthusiastic nose touch to your palm of your hand. I don't worry about distance at this point. I just want, they see your hand, they go straight to it. That's the bit that I'm most interested in.
Okay.
I'm going to play the video for the purposes of the recording. I know you've seen this. Oh, that's not very loud, is it? So I'm waiting until he looks before I present my hand. Cool. Right, I'm going to stop sharing and then we can see you.
So you're feeding your dog with the same hand that you did the hand touch, but I've been doing that differently, and I've been doing the hand touch and then feeding her with the other hand.
That's fine.
That's okay?
That's fine. I do both. I think it's just because the clicker and the whole pile of food, it was in my right hand. And so it's easier to just pick one treat and do that. I often, if I'm using a voice marker, I would do the same as you. So that hand's out and I feed with another hand. That doesn't make any difference.
Doing it that way. Okay. I need to put my thing. I don't know if that's in the right place. Okay. You've got to come and do something.
Oh, are you tired?
It's exhausted. Funnily enough, we've been playing tug in the garden.
Oh, you've got a tugger.
Yeah, I've got one. There's like a rabbit skin. I've got two for the dogs. And yeah, we've been running around playing tug.
Well, that's cool. Lovely. So just wait till she looks at you before you present it.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why you're getting that wait. So just wait. Now. Good. Lovely. Because that's what I want. As soon as she sees it, she moves towards it. Oh.
That's a scratch.
Lovely.
You've
That's
woken up now.
yeah. Oh, there's food.
Huggy. Huggy.
Yeah, that's what I want. So that nice little run towards it. She can't help herself. Beautiful. Lovely. Super. You've got no problems with that.
No.
So the only thing to smarten up a little bit is when you present the cue.
Right.
Because part of the cue is you bringing the hand out. Okay. Because we're not using a verbal touch cue or anything.
Looking at me.
Yeah. Because that's going to be part of the recall picture.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. So you presenting your hand is saying, I want you right here.
Yeah.
I mean, you can teach a verbal cue on it. So you could leave your hand out and she doesn't touch it until you say touch. Right. I just don't think it brings any benefit.
Okay.
I actually prefer the cue to be a purely visual one. And so I'll wait to present it. So my dogs, it's not on a verbal cue at all. You could say touch them and they'll probably do it, but it's because they're seeing the hand, not because you've said anything. Because I like the fact that they can't help themselves. I don't want them to have to think about it and weigh their options up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So normally as soon as they see my hands moving, they've already started moving in towards me.
Right.
And I like that. Okie dokie. That's cool. We are going to move on. Cookies in the Corner, which is a terrible name, by the way, because I'm no good at naming exercises. So this is another game where I'm trying to increase the speed back to you. The reason we're throwing food is to basically get them away from us, because if we try and do this in the home or even in your garden after a couple of reps, you'll never get rid of them. So it's trying to pattern that run out, run back type behavior. The reason it's into a corner or onto a wall is so that the treat doesn't go under something or get lost somewhere. And you don't have to worry about being too accurate about how you throw, because it'll hit the corner and drop down. In real life, we don't need to throw the treat for them to be distracted by something. It's going to be a squirrel or whatever. I want Heidi to be running as fast back to you as she does chasing the squirrel. And that's what we're trying to get with this exercise. So you're going to start close to a corner or a wall. For this, I reckon you could throw it towards, is that your fireplace behind you or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you throw it towards the bottom of the fireplace, I think that would do, because you've got carpet, so it's not gonna, you've got a rug in front of it, haven't you? It's not, the food isn't going to bounce everywhere. You're both going to face towards your fireplace, towards the corner of the room. You're going to throw a treat out and tell her to get it. She runs out to get it. She's going to eat it. As she brings her head back up after taking the treat off the floor, you're going to turn and face away from her. Maybe take a step or two. But at this point, I want you to show a treat down by your side. So as you look back towards her, you're going to look back over your shoulder, and that's the side that the treat's going to be. So if you're looking back over your right shoulder, you're going to have the treat in your right hand, because you're going to want her to come up to your right hand side. Yeah. As she comes up towards you, she starts moving towards you, you're going to click and then feed right down by your trouser leg as if she's in heel position. It's going to look a bit like this. I also didn't have a convenient corner. This is my very messy conservatory with the dog that's been eating the mat. I should have picked it up. So I throw the treat out just to get him out of the way. Click as he turns and comes towards me, feed him a couple of treats by my side. Throw the treat out, click as he turns and comes towards, a couple of treats by my side. And all I'm looking for is that he's running back as fast as he was going out. And the way I get that fast run back initially is by clicking early. I don't know whether you clocked that. So I click pretty much as soon as he either turns towards me or takes a step. And then I know that he's going to drive to me because the food's happening at me. Do you want to see that again, or are you good to go?
Not sure if I'm going to be very good at this, but yes, I'm good to go.
Good to go. Cool.
Right, let me just move Winston out of the way.
And can you move your computer chair out of the way so I can see? Otherwise it's going to hide everything, I think. Perfect. That's good. I think it'll be all right. So I don't want you to worry too much. I just want you to throw a treat out and then show her the treat down by your side so she comes back to you, to your side. Let's start with that. Throw a treat out. Turn. Oh, she found it. Now show her. Perfect. So that's all the mechanics you need. Now you just need to put the click in as she starts moving towards you. Good. Beautiful. See? Easy.
Yeah, it sounded more complicated than it was.
Lovely. Super. So wait to click until she's not searching anymore for any more drop treats. Just wait until she's got her head up and looking at you, coming towards you. Click for that. Yeah, better. Super. Now you know why I said like against a wall and stuff.
This is a really bad room for this.
Yeah, that's all right though. Lovely. That's great. That's all you need.
Okay.
So I'm just going to show you a little bit more, but we're not going to have a chance to do it because you don't have enough room. And I knew that. I just wanted to show people how to extend it. Share.
I can do it in my hallway. Well, I can't have my laptop there, but I will be able to practice that in my hallway, which would be perfect.
Cool. So to extend it, once you've got her like running, moving more quickly, just like Flint was in that video, like he was eating the treat and then he was by my side almost. You can start extending how far you're throwing that treat. And I'll show you a video of how I do that in a minute. You can start playing with when you start turning away, and I will run away too at later stages. Not in this video, I'm still wearing Crocs, so I don't run in Crocs because they go flying. I also do this with a tug. So if she's keen on playing tug, that's what this next video will show. I have the tug toy by my side, so he comes in to grab the tug toy. I will also try this out on walks, so you don't have handy corners on walks. So I often use if they're sniffing around by a base of a tree, I chuck a treat down there and head to the end of the line or away from them if they're not on a line. And then I'll click for that moment that their head comes up and they start trotting towards me. That's the moment I start clicking and then feeding by my side or playing tug, depending on what we're doing. This was how I got Fraggle to come back, was I would throw a toy past me. So as she would come up to me, I'd have the tennis ball ready to throw ahead of me. So she would run past and retrieve the ball. Until I taught her to tug and take food when we were outside. So that you can use all different kind of strategies to reinforce it. You can even throw food ahead of you. So if you wanted a bit more speed, if you weren't getting enough speed feeding by your side, because some dogs will walk up to you because they know that they've got to stop, then I might throw food ahead of me so that I get that fast behavior towards me. Anything to get that speediness is what I'm really looking for.
Right.
I can't bear a recall where a dog kind of,
yeah,
in a minute, I just can't bear it.
Oh,
So even my elderly spaniel, he can't run anymore, he moves as fast as he can still to recall, which is kind of funny, and he kind of comes in a diagonal because he can't walk straight either now. But bless him, he's still putting as much effort in as he can for that recall. Oh, I love him. Such a pain in the ass these days, but I do love him. So this is me taking it a little bit further, and there's always Fraggle watching what we're doing. So I throw towards the base of that patio wall. There's a bit more room, and I'm looking for that run. So I delayed my click until he was properly running, because that's what I'm looking for. He always gets food for giving up the toy. And that's as fast as I'll move in the Crocs without falling over. And then I start adding in the recall. When I know that I'm going to get the behavior that I want, I'll add in that recall as he's moving towards me.
Right.
Because he's already doing the behavior.
Okay, get it.
I know that he's about to. And so then we can practice a recall. So I wouldn't call him a particularly strong tugger, but he's good enough now for my purposes. But I can only use this at home with him. His tugging is not strong enough for us to use it on a walk. So we still just use food. And that's fine. Okie dokie. So you also did this week, I think, didn't you?
Yeah.
So we'll go through it for the purposes of the tape. So take it with food on the floor. So I like my default leaves because it's really handy and it makes everything easier. But as far as recall stuff goes, teaching this generally, so I wouldn't just teach it to food on the floor. I teach it food in bowls. I teach it to toys. The more things that I can kind of teach it to in different scenarios, the more likely it is that anytime my dog sees something that they might want or like, they'll check in with me first, because that's the habit we've built. I know that my dog wants the food on the floor. So teaching them to check in with me first, and then maybe you'll get reinforcement from somewhere else, or maybe you get to do the thing, means that when we go walking in Petworth Park and they spy the pond, the first thing they do is check in with me. And that gives me the chance to see whether the fishermen are out and are going to be really annoyed if I let 3 spaniels go into the water, and whether I need to direct them somewhere else, or whether I can say, get it, and they can go running into the water. And so this is what I try and build on. So I do it superficially in this way first, and then I try and notice all those times that they see something and check in with me after they've looked at it. And I'm going to mark that and reinforce it. And then if it's suitable, I can say, yeah, go on ahead, go and do the thing, or redirect them somewhere else. So start with your food in your hand as the warm up. You're going to lower the fist to the floor. Keep the food on the floor covered with your hand. What you're looking for is just like with take it in your hand, for them to look at you, or at least the first stage is to hesitate and not go for the food. You're going to click, give food from somewhere else. Gradually, you're going to uncover the food. I cage my fingers around the food normally, and then start moving my hand away, ready to put my hand back over if they make any movement towards the food on the floor. Once I can uncover the food fully, that's when I would add in my take it cue occasionally. Always, more often, I am going to say yes, or in my dog's case, good, and give them food from somewhere else. So we play the video to remind you. This is Fraggle, who's not brilliant at this, to be honest, as evidenced. Having watched this video a couple of times, I now think she went for that food because it looked like my hand was saying, get it. I think my mechanics were not brilliant. There we go. Okay, so let's have a look at you and Heidi. Bless her. She's so pretty. Good. Nice. Just try and feed her a little higher so that her head comes up. Yeah, there we go.
Take it.
Good. So she's having a hard time looking away from the food. That's fine right now. I'd probably click and treat a little quicker. So you saw how quick I was doing it with Fraggle?
Yeah, it's all about timing, isn't it, with these exercises, trying to get the timing exactly right.
Yeah, because you want to build as much reinforcement as quickly as possible.
Right.
And part of the reason for me being so fast is because you can see Fraggle is super quick.
Yeah.
And if I'm too slow, she's in and the food is gone. But also because I want to build a really quick history of food's coming here, from here.
Okay, yeah.
And then they'll go like, oh, well, that means nothing. It's all coming from you. And then you can go, haha, you can have it. So give it one more go for me.
Okay. Try and be a bit quicker.
And now that you're standing up, instead of covering with your hand, be ready to cover the food with your foot if she goes towards it. Yeah, she might need to pass it. Good. And then, yeah, good. And another now. Good. Super. And now she's barely looking at it. Super.
Take it.
Lovely.
Lost it.
She's like, what food? I forgot it was there.
It's car. I really want to take the carpet up for training. It was there. Take that one instead.
Bless her. That was lovely. And so you got a lot more eye contact from her really quickly. And that's just from rapid fire reinforcement. It's here, it's here, it's here. So she almost doesn't have the time to drop her head and look at the food on the floor. And then over time, you just increase the duration between those clicks.
Right.
They just come a little slower. Cool. Right, what time are we? Oh, okay, we're not doing too bad. Share my screen. Last exercise.
Good girl.
So, hallway recalls. So if you've got a handy hallway to practice in this week, that would be good. This is this week's practicing of the actual recall cue. So we're actually doing some proper recalls. The reason I suggest hallways, although you'll notice in the video I'm about to do, I don't have a useful hallway in my home. So mine is still in the conservatory. But in a narrow space with as few distractions as possible, we're likely to get that fast return back to you because there's nothing else that they can do. And it's narrow, ideally, because then we get a nice straight return because they can't do anything else because they're being a wall. So we're kind of using the environment to force the behavior that we want. Oh, okay. If you don't have a hallway, it doesn't matter. You just need to be a little careful that you're getting the behavior response that you want before you start putting in the cue. So that immediate straight return back to you before you start putting in a proper cue. I would advise sitting on the floor or on a chair, purely so that you can't be looming over your dog for the recall right now. I like to hold my dog back. If that's going to be a problem, especially for Heidi, if she doesn't like holding collar, or I sometimes put my hand on their chest, it doesn't matter. You can just throw the food out and have them run out. I just like holding them back because then when you let them go, they'll run quicker out. Which means
she's fine about me holding her.
Oh,
But
cool.
she just doesn't like people coming at her towards her. But she's fine with being held. In fact, she always wants to be carried.
Well, that's all right then. So I hold my dog, I throw the treat. And so what I'm looking for is them leaning to get the treat. Then I'm going to let them go and say, get it. When they've eaten the treat, I'm going to call them. But the first couple of reps, I'm not going to use my recall cue. I'm going to do silly noises. I normally use pop, 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 because that's what I use with my puppies. If not that I get my dogs as puppies normally, but you know, silly squeaky noises to get them to orientate to you and come back. So I'll use that for the first at least 2 normally goes. I mark as they return, so not when they've got to me, as they are moving towards me, always looking to mark movement rather than position. Get to me, feed them, like have a treat party or a mini treat party. I've put their hold collar, but you'll notice in the video that I don't do that, and that's partly because Flint is right in my face, so it's pointless. And for Heidi, I'm going to say don't hold her collar.
Okay.
Because it's not going to get us what we want, because she's going to stop coming in, and that's the exact opposite of what we want. So we just want her to come forward. Part of the reason for sitting on the floor or on a chair is so that they get between your knees. So we want them in that space. They're that close. I'm not expecting them to clamber on you if that's not what you want, like you will see in the video of Flint, right? He has no worries about crawling all over you. When you're confident about them coming straight back once they've eaten the food, that's when you get to put your recall cue in. Okay, so let's hope that I've managed to put the right video in. Oh, I have. Oh, you also noticed that Fraggle is still in this video because I couldn't be bothered to put her out. So I'm holding his collar, trying to get him to face the right way, let him go. Silly noises to get him back. And then just a treat party back at me, but I'm not holding his collar until the last minute. It's no wonder I have bruises on my stomach. He's such a fluffy idiot. Okie dokie. So we could probably do this with you sitting on your sofa, I reckon, on the chairs, or even on the seat that you're in, if you want to move it out a bit.
Where should I put it?
There is fine, actually, because if you're going to throw the treat towards me, as it were, I can see her return. So that's cool. Because that's the important bit.
Yeah.
Marvelous. Yeah. Turn her around, show her the treat on the end of her nose, and then bowl it out in front of her. That's the more difficult bit, to be honest. And then silly noises come back to you. Perfect. Proper treat.
I've got the silly noises. So I'm making silly noises as
yeah.
she comes back to me, and then giving her loads of treats.
And then giving her loads of treats. Yeah, the silly noises is instead of using the recall cue.
Okay. And do I click when she turns around to come back? Am I clicking? No.
Yes. So I want you to click as she's moving towards you.
Okay.
She's like, what are you doing?
Where's that treat gone?
She's like, oh, where did it go? You lost it, Heidi. So I'd call now if you think she's had it. Silly noises, not your cue. Good. This would be easier if she could see the treat better.
The problem is I really should move this carpet for dog training, because then I dropped some treats on it. She doesn't find them.
Yeah.
You know, when I did the class earlier in the week,
yeah,
I had such high value treats that she went crazy. So I've gone back with the low value treats, and she can't really see them on the carpet.
On the carpet. No, that's all right. Let's see if we can get one more out of her.
Okay.
Get it.
Get it. It's gone onto the desk.
Oh, bless her.
Let's try another one. This is really not a good space. It's now gone in a folder.
Okay, if you were to pop or something. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I get the idea.
Marvelous. What I'm looking for, so did you see how speedily she chased the treat?
Yeah.
She's not coming back to you quite as speedily.
Not nearly, no.
No. So that's what we really want to build with this behavior, with this exercise, is as fast as she chases that treat. That's part of the reason for holding them back, because we'll get a speedy out. I want her to be coming in just as quickly.
Okay.
You know, think Flint and his ridiculous enthusiasm that, you know, he is right there. And so for this, I wouldn't be afraid of using your high value treats if that gets you that speedy behavior, because there's not a lot for her to learn in this, in a mechanical sense. So there's no reason for her to do this slowly, because she's thinking about stuff. There's not an awful lot to think about. What she has to do is run out, grab the food, run straight back to you. So using high value treats to get that speediness, I think is fine.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and do it in the hall, especially if she can see the treat on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because all it is that she's hunting for the treat, and then she's not coming back as speedily because there might be treats on the way back to you. And so she's kind of hunting on the way back. And I don't want her to be doing that. I don't know whether you know, I think it's in this video. When you look back later this week, you'll notice I dropped a treat on the floor, and Flint is so intent on running out and running back, he doesn't even notice it.
Right.
And that happens a lot in our training, actually, that if I accidentally drop a treat, most of the time they don't pay any attention to it, because the good stuff's coming from me and we're doing the thing. I know if they go for a treat that I've dropped, they're finding this hard, and that either they need a break or I'm not making it as easy for them or whatever. because if they've broken away from me and the training that we're doing, that tells me some information. So yeah, I kind of like it as a litmus test almost. I don't deliberately drop food on the floor just to test how my training's going. It just happens. But it's normally a good litmus test. Okay, so those are the exercises for this week. I know a couple of them are recaps for you, but that's kind of handy, I guess.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Cool. Any questions or anything?
No, and that's been very helpful. And just got to think more about the value treats I use for what I'm doing, I think is going to be a big thing. And
yeah,
my speed of reinforcement on some things.
Yeah. Yes. I think I don't realize quite how fast I do things sometimes. And that's my bad for not realizing that and bringing that to people's attention. But yeah, what you're looking for is to load. If we think about behaviors as like on a seesaw, we want to load one side really heavily with what we want. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. And the faster we can do that, the more likely we are to get the behaviors that we want. And then you just start easing back on it. And you'll still get the behaviors that you want.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah, my recommendation would be high value. I take high value treats every time we go out the door. So most of the training you see in these videos when we're at home or in the garden, I'm just using their normal kibble. My guys are actually raw fed, so I just have dry food.
So yeah, so she's raw fed, and then I get the low value treats are they're raw but dried, if you see what I mean.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've just got
she would much prefer cheese and frankfurters and bacon, so I know how to up it.
Oh yeah, so that stuff is the stuff that comes out with you on walks. Yeah, and I get through a lot of that on walks, but I'm okay with that because I want to be building that behavior all the time.
Yeah, get that.
Yeah, I don't take any, it's not that I'm not taking any chances with it. I will always pay for a recall. I will always pay for a check-in because I always want it to happen. So yeah, and it just becomes a habit for both of us, really.
Yeah.
So on that one time that I took them to a field and didn't take any food out with me by accident, because we were just doing a quick 5-minute thing before we went on a trip somewhere, and I think I had 4 dogs out with me, and there was a whole ton of pheasants in the field, and they put up the pheasants and I called them back and they all came back and I went, oh crap. Right, but that was okay because we had years of
get it,
always being paid. I mean, you can bet the next time I took them out, I made sure I had food on me. That didn't happen again. But the only reason that was successful was because of years of you get paid every time you come back.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And if I'd been thinking, I would never have recalled them formally because I wouldn't have trusted them to do it, to be perfectly honest.
But they did.
And it was awesome. And then I went, oh, okay, let's run around the field together. Yay. This is all I've got for you. In the fog. It was great. Okay. That's it. Don't forget to send me your videos because you're in both classes. Phil, just send me videos.
Okay, thank you.
On whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yes, your feedback's really, really helpful. It's
good.
Just even though if I do the training, it's not always easy to find. I can't video myself. It would me trying to make sure I'm in the right place and pressing it on. I would not concentrate on what I should be doing. I know, so I have to have. Although there's 6 people in our house, it's not always easy to find someone here at the right time as me to film me. So it's just when I've got someone that will willingly film me for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute.
Well, even if you hang on, I'm just going to stop recording.